What's up, everyone? It's your good friend Eric. This is the Leading Edge Podcast. It's episode number 55. It's the double nickel episode. How about that? I'm really fired up for this one. I think it's going to be really good. I hope that you enjoy it. I so appreciate all of you who engage with this podcast. I love seeing how the unique downloads are racking up. I'd love to track that statistic. And lots of people are engaging with this, and it makes me feel really, really good. So this one is all about possibility. All right, so we're going to have some fun. Speaking about possibility, why am I doing this now? Well, because I'm recording this in the middle of November. And what happens in the middle of November is that people start to think about next year, their goals, their dreams, their plans. And this is going to help people in that situation when you're thinking about your New Year goals. And no matter when you're listening to this, even if you're listening to this in the middle of the year, this will definitely apply. So this will be helpful no matter what time of year you're engaging with this podcast, okay? So what happens when people start to plan a new year, start to consider new goals? What happens commonly is they get fired up, they get excited about that, but then the little voice creeps in, right? The little voice raises its head, the little voice speaks up, the little voice becomes the big voice. And of course, I'm talking about the little voice in our head. And the little voice says things like, yeah, but is a problem. Okay. So basically the little voice is like, yeah, but you can't do that. Sure, that would be great. That would be nice. That'd be wonderful. That would be amazing. I get it. I get all the benefits. Yes, that would be beyond incredible. Sure, that would be lovely, but, right? It's that word but that is a problem, okay? So that's what this podcast is going to be all about. This is also something that we are working on in my mastermind group called Alpha State. And what we do in Alpha State is we not just talk about these things, we apply it, right? So we go to work on specific scenarios and we change our thinking about our goals so that they come true. And if you want to check that out, you want to go to alphastateclass.com to learn more about that. That's my mastermind. So what goes on when people have this big dream, this goal, something they want to do, and the little voice rears its head, it's like this chasm is created, right? There's a chasm between I want to and I can't. All right, I want to, but creates this chasm. So let's look at a couple examples, all right, just to make this point. So let's first talk about an income example. I know a lot of us have income goals. So let's pretend someone has an income goal that they want to earn $1 million a year. So they would say, over the next 12 months, what I want to do is earn $1 million. And for sure, that person would be able to imagine the benefits of that. That'd be amazing. That'd be wonderful. Think of all the giving I could do, the contribution I would make, the example that I would set, all the people that would be helped because I was able to earn that much. Like that person would easily be able to say that. And I think it's easy to imagine that person saying, but, come on, that's $1 million. Come on, have you even come close to that? You've never done that before. How on earth, right? All those things creep up that creates the chasm. I think another one would be a fitness goal. So I think we could use an example like thinking about my body frame. So an ideal weight for my body frame is, I think, about 205 pounds, give or take. I'm at about 210 right now, so I'm close. But let's pretend that someone with my frame was at 280 pounds and they had a goal to weigh 205 pounds. They might say, yeah, I get it. I get the benefits of being 205 pounds. I would have more energy. I would be likely to live longer. I would just be better. I could better serve other people. It would just be amazing. That would be incredible. I get it. That'd be amazing. But I weigh 280 right now. There's no way I could get my weight down to 205 pounds, right? So do you get those two examples? Can you see that? And so what's going on is a belief problem. All right, so we have a belief problem in both of those examples. And that's what's happening when the little voice creeps up to say, yeah, but there's a belief problem. So in the income example, the person doesn't believe, ultimately, they don't believe that they could earn $1 million. In the weight example, the person just doesn't believe that they could ultimately weigh 205 pounds. They get it, they see the benefits. Yes, wonderful, amazing, but I don't believe it. Okay, so we have a belief problem. So let's do something called belief testing. All right, and this is something that we've been doing in my mastermind, Alpha State. So let's do a belief test. I want you to think about something that you love. What's something that you really, really love? So it could be a person, it could be an activity, it could be a place. It could be a type of food. Maybe you love Italian food, or maybe you love spaghetti, or maybe you love your mom's lasagna, right? Whatever it is. What's something you love? So for me, I love to ski. I love to ride my bike. I love my kids, right? So let's just use the example of my kids. And I want you to imagine you writing down the sentence, I love whatever it is, fill in the blank. So for me, I love my kids. And I want you to just tune in and test how that feels. Like test the degree that you believe that. And we're not even talking about degrees when we do this exercise. It's a simple yes or no. Do you believe it or not? Like, is it a belief that you are convicted about or not? And if you were to ask me about my kids, if you were to ask me, do I love my kids? I would say, yes, I love my kids. Like, it would just be just a matter of fact. It would be like me saying, yes, the sky is blue. Like, that's just a matter of fact. It just is. So that's the test. And that's what conviction feels like. And that's what your body experiences, what your brain experiences when you're at that level of conviction. Now, what I want you to do, I want you to think about something that you want. All right. What's something that you want? What's your goal? So I threw out the $1 million a year. I threw out weigh 205 pounds. Maybe you have your own income goal, your own fitness goal, your own relationship goal, your own business goal, your own travel goal, whatever it is. Like what is that something that you want? So think about the thing, the activity, something you're going to do or something you're going to have. Think about that thing. And then what I want you to do in front of that, I want you to put the two words, I will. So using our examples, it would be, I will earn $1 million over the next 12 months. I will weigh 205 pounds in 6 months, right? So you put I will in front of it for whatever your goal is, for whatever you want. And then I want you to test it. So test it. Is it a matter of fact, just like the thing you love, just like the sky is blue? Yes or no, all right? Is it you saying, oh yeah, it's a done deal. Like I will earn $1 million in the next 12 months. For sure. Like I know there will be challenges along the way. I'm actually looking forward to those challenges. And it's not going to be easy, but it's going to happen. Like no matter what. I'm going to weigh 205 pounds. I know I weigh 280 now. So that'd be me losing 75 pounds. I'm going to make that happen in 6 months. I just am. Like I'm absolutely determined. So are you at that level? Is it a matter of fact or not? And if it's not, that's okay, because that's what this whole podcast is about. So what happens is if you don't believe it, and oftentimes we don't believe it with our big goals like this, we don't believe that it will happen. What's really saying is, what we're saying to ourselves is, I can't, right? So I can't do that, is really what we're saying to ourselves. And what happens is the I can't will win. Like that will win out eventually. Like I can't will just endure over any other thing if you let it. Okay, so the I can't will win. So I think about that Henry Ford quote that says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you are right. So what happens when we have this thing stuck in our brain and we're seeing it as not possible? So there it's living in our brain. We have this goal. Sure, be nice, but it lives there labeled as not possible. All right, so it's being labeled as impossible. So there are three things that happen when we are thinking in impossibility, right? When we're thinking that something is not possible. There are three pretty interesting things that occur. Number one, isn't it convenient? It's so convenient to see something as not possible. It's convenient for us because it involves no risk, right? There's no risk. We're not risking really anything. And mostly I'm talking about what I'm talking about here, not so much like financial risk, I'm talking about emotional risk. There's no risk of putting yourself out there and risking being criticized or looked at or judged or pushing out of your comfort zone, right? There's no risk. And there's also at least a perception of no discomfort. So you say, you know what? It's gonna be way more comfortable for me to just sit here and see that thing is not possible. I don't have to risk anything. So I'm just going to keep it there as impossible. Isn't that nice? Okay. So that's the first thing that happens. It's convenient. Number two thing that happens is it may be convenient, but it's tiring. That's number two. It's tiring. So I think about the metaphor of a wall. There's a wall that we put up called not possible. So we just put a wall up around that thing. Well, yeah, that'd be nice, but it's not possible. So we have to build this wall. Well, you know what? It takes work to build a wall. It also takes work to maintain a wall. So think about any wall. Any wall, if it's not maintained, will eventually erode and break down and not be a wall anymore. So it takes work to hold that up. So it's actually becomes like exhausting, right? To maintain the wall and keep it up and keep thinking in impossibility. And here's number three. Number three, as I've thought about this, as I've prepared for this podcast, number three is a big deal. Number three says that thinking as something being impossible, you know what it is? It's abusive. It's abusive to tell yourself over and over again that I can't. Like that's just not being nice to yourself if I can't is playing in a loop in your head. So I think about my kids. Like if there was someone who was saying to my kids over and over again, you can't do that, you can't do that, you know you can't do that, you can't do that. Like I would eventually, probably pretty quickly, call that person out. Like if they're speaking that way to my kid, like if it was a coach or a teacher, something like that, it'd be like, whoa, time out, man. Don't talk to my kid that way, okay? And what if you heard your kid saying those things to themselves out loud? Like what if you heard your kid speaking out loud in that way? I just can't, I can't. There's no way. Like you would eventually say something to the kid like, whoa, time out. Let's figure out some better ways to speak to ourselves. And yet we do that to ourselves, right? We speak to ourselves that way. It is abusive. And what's interesting is that abuse is very uncomfortable. So we may think that there's more comfort in seeing things as impossible, but it's actually very uncomfortable. So we got to get out of this trap, right? So there's a line, a phrase I love from one of my mentors, Brooke Castillo. You've heard me talk about her before. She's a genius. She says, it's possible to consider an impossibility. It's possible to consider an impossibility. So it's possible to consider that something that may seem as impossible to actually see that as possible. And I know that is a tongue twister, that's a brain twister, but it's possible to consider an impossibility. What I would argue is it's actually easier to think in possibility as opposed to in impossibility. It's easier to think that way. All right, so let's think in the terms of possibility, and we're going to find it's easier. I'm going to tell you specifically why that is, but first, like just think about that. Like, wouldn't your brain rather be thinking in terms of possibility versus seeing something as not possible? Like, wouldn't your brain rather do that? I mean, that's how our brains have evolved. Like, we have evolved to think that way. I would argue we have evolved because of that, right? Because our brains think in terms of possibility. That's why we have evolved. So just think about even things in relatively recent terms, like electricity. Like if it wasn't for Thomas Edison thinking in terms of a possibility, we wouldn't have electricity. And I'm sure someone else maybe would have figured it out, but it's because of that we have electricity. You think about our country. Think about the United States, and I know people listen to this from all over the place, but Think about the United States being formed and declaring independence. Like if we didn't think that that was possible, it wouldn't have happened. Like we had to consider that as a possibility. So we're just naturally wired up to be that way. So it takes way more work to not be that way. So our brain's default is to think in terms of possibility. So let's go back to our two examples. And what's going on in those two examples of an income goal of $1 million over 12 months, or I want to weigh 205 pounds in 6 months, what was happening again is we had this chasm between I want and I will. Okay, so you're standing on one side of the chasm saying, I want to, but I can't. And way over on the other side is I will. And it's going to happen. All right, so you have this chasm. And how do you get across a chasm? Let me ask you, how do you get across a chasm? With a bridge. All right, so we need a bridge. We need a bridge to get across. So we tested I will. So for whatever your goal is, whatever the thing is that you want to achieve. So we use the example of $1 million a year. If someone said, that's my goal, and then if they said, I will do that, I will do that, and we tested it, and the test is no, they're not there yet. They're not saying that as if the sky is blue or as if I love my kids. It's not there yet. So we got to bridge across to it. And the other way to think about this, guys, is we got to crack the door open. We got to crack the door open. So if you're sitting there in I can't, if you're sitting there in no, if you're sitting there in with a little voice speaking up saying, yeah, but the door is closed and locked, and we got to crack the door open. And the way that we do it is with possibility. So when we think in terms of possibility, then the door gets cracked open. And so specifically what this sounds like, specifically what this would be, it's really simple. All you do is you put the words, it's possible, in front of I will. Just put the words, it's possible, in front of I will. So use our examples. I will earn $1 million a year. I will earn $1 million over the next 12 months. If the test, when we test that, the answer is no, does not come back as a belief yet. What if we put it's possible in front of that? So it's possible I will earn $1 million over the next 12 months. Can you see the massive, massive, massive difference with that? It's possible that I will. And you can even add more disclaimers in front of that, like more disclaimer, nuanced, all designed to crack this little door open, or that it could be a big door, but all designed to crack this door open. So it may sound like, you know what, I'm open to the possibility that I will earn $1 million over the next 12 months. I'm open to that possibility. I'm open to the possibility that I will weigh 205 pounds in 6 months. I'm open to that possibility. Or how about this one? I'm willing to consider the possibility. I'm willing to consider the possibility that I would earn $1 million over the next 12 months. Can you see the huge, huge shift? Can you see that that is a much better, more constructive, and also more natural way to think as opposed to I can't? Like I can't is not a natural way for our brains to be. And we give our brains a break. We give our brains relief when we can now think in possibility. So you put in it's possible in front of I will, you put I'm open to the possibility, or you put I'm willing to consider the possibility. I'm going to give you two examples. One is my wife. Okay, so I've talked in other podcasts about the story of meeting my wife and the fact that I was married before. I won't go into a lot of detail here, but long story short, I was married before, got divorced, crushed. Where my brain was is I can't have a great marriage. I can't have a great relationship. That's where my brain was. But eventually I got my brain to, you know what? It's possible. It's possible that that will happen. I was not all the way to I will yet. I wasn't all the way to I will have an amazing marriage. But I got my brain to it's possible that I will. And it's not until my brain was there in possibility that Julie showed up in my life. Like I had to have my brain go there for me to even see the possibility of meeting her, taking her on the first blind date, and on and on. Like I had to be living in a place of possibility for me to see that. So we don't see what is possible in the first place until we get our brains to think in terms of possibility. So that's an example from many years ago. Here's a way more recent example. I am focused on growing my brokerage company. I want to attract realtors into my brokerage company. And I've been having this goal about the number of people that I want to attract in. And it's been living in my head is, yeah, sure, that'd be awesome. That'd be fantastic. That'd be great. I get the benefits. That would be really cool. But man, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I can do it. I'm not so sure. Like the old I can't was winning, right? The little voice was rearing its head. And so I did this exercise for me personally, like I did it on myself. And all I did was I put it's possible in front of I will. So I had a specific attraction goal in terms of number of people I wanted to attract into my company. And I put it's possible in front of I will. And I immediately saw what was possible. Immediately. And the other thing that happened immediately is I felt this relief. I felt this relief in my brain. My brain was like, oh, thank goodness we don't have to hold this wall up anymore. That's exhausting. We don't have to maintain this wall. I don't like it. And also the abuse stopped, right? The abuse of I can't stopped. And that was also super relieving to my brain. So what immediately happened when I started to think in possibility, like without even consciously deciding to do this, what happened was I started to chunk the goal down. So I had a big goal in terms of number of people, but then immediately it was chunked down like, well, that if I thought in terms of the types of people that I want to attract, whether it could be an experienced person or new to the business, like I could see chunks, like I want a certain number of experience, a certain number of new people. Then I also saw chunks of time, like, well, gosh, that would only mean this many per month. And gosh, that's possible, right? So and all at once I had all this momentum, only because I was now thinking in terms of possibility and I shifted out of I can't. So what I would tell you as it relates to your goal, as it relates to what you want to do over the next 12 months or over the next month or next week, whatever it is, what I would tell you, don't get stuck in I can't. All right? Don't live there. Don't stop there. And also, don't beat yourself up if you're not at I will yet. So if you're not all the way across the chasm yet, don't beat yourself up for not being there. Don't do that. That's not useful. And don't get stuck in I can't. Instead, bridge to it. And you bridge to it with possibility, right? So think in terms of possibility, bridge over to it, and you know what? Your brain will thank you, all right? Your brain will be so grateful for you to start thinking that way. It will be such a relief. It will also be so much fun for your brain to now be thinking in this new way. Okay, guys, that is episode number 55. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, you got to check out my mastermind class, Alpha State, alphastateclass.com. My goodness, we have fun. We make a change in your brain, in your thinking. We make amazing contributions. We transform. It's a good time. All right, so check that out. And thank you for checking out this podcast. Look forward to catching you in the next one. In the meantime, enjoy life on the leading edge.